back to another video. So today's video we're going to be looking at a potential snowstorm this week. Now I do want to say please don't take this like 100%, because obviously it's not 100% yet. It's not set in stone. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying it's a lock. Just don't take this 100%. So anyways, as you see right now, this is the European model. Credit to Pivotal Weather for this. So thank you to them. Low pressure system in southeastern Canada, bringing some lake effect snow showers. Less intense bands over Lake Erie, as Lake Erie is pretty frozen solid right now. And then we got a high pressure ridge out west. This is bringing warmer than usual conditions for most out west. We've got a ridge bringing warmer temperatures out into the west. And then we have a little system moving on to the west coast here. And then as these lake effect snow bands move through, some of them are even reaching into central Pennsylvania, although it's not as intense. And then we have these lake effect snow showers coming off of Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, or Lake Superior, and then Lake Huron. We do have some lake effect snow bands. Overall, though, in the south and in the west, we have the ridge of high pressure building in. And this ridge is going to continue to bring above normal temperatures out west. And as it's blocking kind of and allowing colder air to dive into the east. So this is what we call a trough. And then this is what we call a ridge when you see the jet stream pattern like this. And whenever we have this blocking out west and we have the ridge out west, that's called a positive PNA. And then whenever it's the opposite, we have a trough in the west, ridge in the east. That's called like a negative PNA. So anyways, moving on. We have nothing really interesting happening other than we do have this in the Pacific Northwest. We kind of have a little bit of an atmospheric river going on there. And if you don't know what that is, that's just like loads of moisture moving along. So we have something a little sitting off the coast of the Northeast there. But as you can see, we have this high Arctic high. This is going to dive down into the southern United States, and this is going to bring quite a bit of cold air. And it's going to bring a lot of cold air to the south, as you can tell. It has a high cold air, or a massive ridge and cold air diving all the way down into the Gulf of America here. The 540 line, which is like the snow line, is all the way down here in the Gulf of America off the east coast. And then this ridge all the way up into Canada. This is a massive ridge. And then we have a deep, deep trough. This is crazy. Like the most intense cold air would be somewhere in here, centered in here. And then we have this little low pressure system that aligns just right with it to bring some moisture to the Carolinas and a potential snowstorm. So this snowstorm, now this isn't a guarantee yet, but this snowstorm bringing very intense snow to the Carolinas here, especially the Outer Banks areas. And as it moves on, it kind of tucks that precip shield in, and it kind of avoids contact with the mid-Atlantic in the Northeast, and it just moves out rather than actually making landfall there. So that system moves out. And then it becomes really quiet. We get another little Arctic pattern. Keep getting a general pattern you can tell is just all these systems bringing cold blasts into the east. That's a general pattern that we see throughout the model run here. If we take a look at the GFS model, now I do want to point out one of the biases is that it kind of has storms a little bit too far to the south. Now, that's not always the case. We can have sometimes where that does not happen, but let's see. I'm trying to find where's the beginning of the model run here. This is February. Let's take back this way up. Okay, so this is about now. We have again, we have this high pressure, and it's there's a kind of a ridge building in the west, a trough in the east, kind of the same thing we saw. And then it does, let's see, whoops, that's not what's supposed to happen. We have, this is probably about closer to now, let's see, or Wednesday the 60th. So this is a little closer to now. We have this high pressure ridge building out west, and then we have a deep trough in the east. It's bringing a lot of super cold air out to the east. You see negative temperatures in some areas last night. And then we have this little low forming, this low pressure system, and it comes along this trough. It's kind of riding the jet stream here, and as you can see, the moisture aligns with the cold air, and it brings some flurries to the north at first, and then some rain to the south. But then you get this kind of like the trough swings through and brings a bunch of energy with it. And as you can see, this on the GFS, this absolutely explodes. We have tons of snowfall for the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, and then as it moves along the northeast, super heavy snowfall. And then just after that, I want to point something out. After that, just like some super cold air, just like showing on the Euro. We have this 504 line. This is about where it peaks, the cold air, somewhere in there. So it's pretty consistent on the trough. Just, however, the axis, the GFS, is a little bit more steady with the axis, whereas the Euro was showing it more of a tilted axis while it was swinging through. In fact, okay, this is the exact same time that the GFS was showing the center way back here and a more steady axis. However, we have this on the Euro model. We have about the center about right here, and it's more of a tilted axis as it's swinging through. This is what we call a negatively tilted trough. And as it moves through, we have this storm riding along the jet stream up the coast. And as this low pressure system moves up the coast, it doesn't get as intense. And since the trough comes earlier in this model run, the trough is earlier than expected moving through. So in this model run, it shows it kind of pushing it out to sea, as you can see with the winds there. The wind and the jet stream, it's moving out to sea there. And so we watched this storm kind of move along that. And in fact, these tight isobars, this would probably signal a blizzard with intense winds. However, as it moves towards the mid-Atlantic, it's probably going to sail out to sea, according to this model run, by the way. I just want to point out that model runs are not a forecast. They're just a suggestion of what could happen. And you should not look at just one model run and assume this is what's going to happen. I just want to say that. But as you see, the freezing line is towards the middle of the storm, and we have a very, very intense center of low pressure. In fact, that's like a 974 millibar low right there, and that's pretty deep. And as it deepens on the Euro, it kind of tucks the precip shield down, and it kind of wraps it around rather than having it intensify and spread out. It kind of just like tucks it in, and it doesn't really let it go. So let's take a look at another model. Let's see. Let's take a look at the icon. Not exactly sure. Let's see. This would be the 30th 18Z 31st. Now this kind of shows a really, really lopsided trough with the axis really being kind of strange here. But as it swings through, the low kind of develops, and then it kind of doesn't really do anything. It barely gives any snow to even the outer banks. And it kind of just moves along, because this shows the trough coming really early compared to the other weather models. And let's see. Something interesting to look at is always the AI models. We'll just see. Um, I don't know if it does precipitation though, so if it doesn't, we'll just have to move along without it, I guess. But I think precipitable water could give us a pretty good, or total quantitative precipitation, yeah. So we can combine this with kind of like the snow liquid ratio or the so and get a good indication. So this is saying about while it's moving up the coast, it stays out to sea, this system, and it's saying it dumps about 4 inches of liquid equivalent on the Carolinas. However, this would be snowfall. So if we look at the temperatures, if I can find them, uh, yeah, 2 meter above ground level temperature, just not far at all. So let's take a look at around the 31st time frame. It's pretty close to freezing. Have about 23. So this is probably okay. This is showing some pretty intense snowfall. I don't really want to say the totals out loud because that would be pretty ridiculous. Um, but if that didn't play out and we had like say like 12-to-1 ratios, I'd probably or 15-to-1 ratios. It'd probably be closer to like 13-to-1 ratios. That would be like 26 inches of snow. I don't expect that at all out of this system. This would not bring that much snowfall. I can just about say that with 100% certainty. Uh, I'm looking at the stuff that we could use. Maybe we could look at the ensemble models. We have like, let's look at the icon ensemble model and see how it aligns. So the icon model showing this system, it kind of moves up the coast a little bit. It brings a little bit of moisture to these areas, just a tiny bit of moisture in this area, but as you can see, the heaviest precipitation is out to sea. If I can. So, and then let's take a look at the temperature because you could kind of figure out this how much snow would fall with the temperatures and the. So let's take a look at around the 30th, 31st. So, okay, it's gonna be about 20 in the mid 20s according to this model. Um, and as we move along, let's see. It was showing for areas in North Carolina about 2 to 3 inches of liquid equivalent. This would still be around 20 inches of snowfall, which I don't really agree with. Unless I'm just overestimating the ratios, but even then at 10-to-1, it would still be quite a bit of snowfall. I don't agree with that. The Euro model is showing, let's see, the new Euro run. Let's see, is there a new one? I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, that's the same one. I think that's all the models we have to look at, but 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, February 2nd through 6th is when this is valid. Again, we have that big ridge of that big ridge out in the west, and we have this trough in the east. Look, very intense look, and we have above average temps for northern Maine, but that's about it for the east. Precipitation outlook, most of the east should be drier, and then the south central plain or the south central United States and the north central United States could be a little bit wetter than normal. However, through the central plains out into the desert southwest, western United States, Pacific Northwest, drier than normal expected. This is from the 4th through the 10th. Climate Prediction Center, we can see the cold starting to make a rebound here for the east. Once again, we still have that very intense look here of the troughing and the ridging. It looks like the most intense troughing and the cold air will be in the mid-Atlantic and parts of Florida, and then the most intense heat will be towards the Great Salt Lake area And then the 4th through the 10th precip total is about the same story. Everywhere else dry except for the south central and north central U.S. So that's about it with that. And then we have the Climate Prediction Center. This is for today. We got some lingering snow showers around for some areas. In the eastern United States, as a cold front will move through. And we have tomorrow, the cold front moves through. And then we still have some lingering lake effect snow showers. Again, not too much for Lake Erie as it's mostly frozen over at this point. Day 3, this would be around Thursday. We have this, the Weather Prediction Center has this system developing with a little bit of mixed precipitation and snow showers on the north side. And then this low pressure system kind of allowing for some warmer air to creep up. However, shouldn't be too impactful as that trough moves through. So, anyways, no watch warning advisories, nothing much going on at all. So, I think that'll do it for today's video. And if you haven't already, you should check out EpicPen. They have some good tools. You can get the free version for just like the base equipment, or you can get the $2 a month for a lot more. You can see all this stuff here. They have a lot more than that, so you should check out EpicPen. So thank you for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.